for even longer than 31 years. And I just want to say that it is such an honor to be here today. I've been in office now for 1 month. 1 month, and the time has gone by fast. And when I look out, especially in the front here, and you see all of my colleagues, the elected officials, all of us are working together. We're working together because we understand what's at stake in our community. And Heidi just spoke for a hot minute, but she's making it happen in the city attorney's office. We meet every single week. And we got an AG who is going to fight on behalf of all of us. So glad to see you here in LA, and I'm going to have the honor in a few weeks of swearing you in. And Miss Holly, I want to be like Holly when I grow up. And Lindsay, it is so great to see you on the Board of Supervisors, and my other colleagues, Karen and Steve and David, thank you so much for what you have done here, and Drew, to see Drew's footprint continue to grow, and Sylvia, I know that that is very close to your heart. And Travis, thank you for bringing us KBLA and all that you do in our city for so many years. So let me just say, as I said, it has been a month since I took the oath of office, and I will tell you that despite many challenges that LA faces, it is an incredible honor to serve. I spent an entire year talking about what I want to do, and now to be able to actually begin that process has been very, very exciting. I do have to admit, though, I was obsessively watching the soap opera in Washington, D.C. I don't know how many of you saw that. So, yeah. Well, is Sydney here? Oh, is she? Uh-oh. I saw Sydney a few minutes ago over at the labor breakfast, and I walked over and I said, Sydney, I know, I'm looking at you. Right. Hey there. I said to Sydney about an hour ago, I said, I sure hope you're not mad at me. I mean, I knew it was crazy back there, but I have to tell you, that takes the cake from what we have seen. But I know, Sydney, that you're happy to be home today because you know in Los Angeles and California, our democracy is strong. We do have the right to vote. Women do have the ability to control our bodies. Immigrants are actually welcome, and climate change is not debated in our city or in our state. But you know what, though? We can't sit back on our laurels and be complacent. We always must be on guard because even our progressive city can swing in a conservative direction. Fortunately, we prevented that from happening in spite of $100 million. But when people don't believe that the government will address their needs, they can and will resort to responding in ways that disproportionately hurt people, especially people who are least able to defend for themselves. So that's why I believe in order for Angelenos to begin to believe that we can solve our humanitarian crisis, we have to start by ending the suffering on our streets. Thousands of Angelenos sleeping on our streets every night, and we know that this morning 5 of them did not wake up. It really is a horror that should shock all of us to our core. And one of the things that worries me is that it's been a lot of years now, and there's actually a whole generation that has grown up thinking that this is normal. But those of us who have a few years under our belts know that this was not always the way it was, Mark. It wasn't. But we do know that 30 years ago, we were fighting to house people in South LA when people in other parts of the city weren't even thinking about it because it didn't touch them. But now, this is an emergency that I believe requires every level of government to work together and all Angelenos to step up. That whether we are housed or not, we have a responsibility to end this crisis, and every Angeleno has skin in the game. That's right. This is what we do when we face a crisis in this city. This is what happened with COVID. Businesses that were suffering stepped up anyway and helped out Angelenos. Schools fed families. The government provided resources, And when we've experienced earthquakes or civil unrest, we've all stepped up and helped others. Well, I want you to imagine for a minute LA. What do you think LA would look like if Angelenos joined together across the city to collectively solve the problem? Neighborhoods around the city will identify where housing can be built, as opposed to declaring that there will be no housing built in my neighborhood. What do you think will happen if we move this vision forward in the city? We need to purchase and convert motels, hotels, and commercial buildings into temporary housing so no Angelenos will have to resort to pitching a tent. After a short period of time, that's right, after a short period of time in these motels, we will move people into permanent housing with services that will assist individuals to eventually transition into good-paying jobs and workforce housing so that you will no longer see Angelenos live in squalor. Let me just tell you, in the short time I've been there, I didn't realize, Mike, that we have thousands of vacancies in the city. Thousands of vacancies. There are good-paying union jobs that are actually budgeted for. So when people say, what can I do to help? You tell people, come work for the city. 900 vacancies in sanitation. People wonder why their streets aren't clean. So I truly believe that we can do this. We can join together as a city and marshal all our resources and unite every level of government. That's why on my first day, I didn't go to City Hall. I went to the Emergency Operations Center and signed a declaration of emergency. Because it is an emergency. And I want to thank Supervisor Horvath and Supervisor Mitchell for having the County Board of Supervisors do the same. And I don't know if you know, several other cities are now doing this. Long Beach did it. I'm getting calls from other states. People are asking, well, what the heck did that mean? Say, we will discover it together. Sometimes we don't know, but we take steps to send a message. So several days later, I signed an executive directive to fast-track building so housing can be rapidly built and less expensive. We signed this directive at the site of a location where Dora Gallo, Mark, who used to work for you, Dora Gallo has spent 14 years trying to break ground on affordable housing that would address people with mental illness. 14 years, and we wonder why people are dying on our streets. So several days after that, we launched Inside Safe. Felicia, stand up. John Adams from St. Joseph. Now, I won't claim Inside Safe, but I want you to know it was her brainchild. So we launched Inside Safe to end the suffering on our streets. Suffering that impacts Angelenos who are housed and unhoused. And instead of asking people living in tents to temporarily move for sidewalk cleaning, Inside Safe provides temporary housing with ongoing support to create a pathway to permanent housing. I've also discovered that there are hundreds of vacant units of permanent supportive housing. I almost screamed. I don't understand why we have people on the street and vacancies in veterans housing, Holly, and permanent supportive housing. I haven't gotten to the bottom of it, but I promise you I will. And contrary to the popular belief, because everybody always wants to ask me, the first thing they want to ask me is, well, what about those people that say no? Well, what about those people that say yes? Ask me about them. Because they are the overwhelming majority of people. Kenneth Mejia, where's our controller? Stand on that. We got to acknowledge the next generation of leaders. So we're working working together because he wants to document and track and provide the tools, because people need to know where their money is going. So Inside Safe has successfully addressed chronic encampments in Hollywood and Venice. When encampments are cleared because Angelenos are housed, neighbors can reclaim their streets like residents in Venice did this week. Housed and unhoused Venice residents suffered together for years, and now housed and unhoused residents are being taken care of, and people can walk the streets again and park their cars along the streets. The reclaiming of neighborhoods is something that I learned from Community Coalition years after I left the coalition. Years after I left the coalition, there were parks in South LA that communities, neighborhoods, families couldn't go in anymore because unhoused people were there, because young folks involved in drug trafficking and drug using were there. They spent months clearing out the park and not getting people arrested, not calling the police, but clearing out the park. And then the neighbors, the families came back and reclaimed those parks. And those parks now are the site of festivals and picnics and have been cleared for years. That's what we need to do. Yesterday I went to the motels and visited the people that left the tents to hear how they were doing. And we're going to stick with them. It's not a matter of sending them to a motel, leaving them there for a couple of months, and then when the rain stops, they go right back. Because we're going to stay on those streets to make sure if new people come back, or they come back, that we address their needs again, because it is not about shooing people away, hiding people, or arresting people. It's about helping people. News with you. Last month, President Biden announced that his administration wants to reduce homelessness by 25% in 2 years. Well, you know, I called him up and said, look, you want to reduce homelessness by 25% in 2 years? Come to LAX, spend a little time with us. You can focus on our city alone and meet your national goal. Who is the director of the Domestic Policy Council. When the president does an initiative like that, it goes to the Domestic Policy Council. And those of you, I don't know if you have seen Susan Rice in her career, but let me just tell you something. When she goes after something, it gets done. So when you see infrastructure, when you see issues that the administration takes on, big initiatives, whether it's immigration or infrastructure or climate, it's in her shop. So she was here, and we spent the day with her. We started in Venice. We immediately went to Skid Row. We wanted her to understand the magnitude of the problem. And after spending the day with us, she said that LA will now be considered one of the cities that the administration will focus its efforts on. And some more good news. What'd you say, Lindsay? What'd you say?
Caruso can't make that happen.
I'm just saying. Sometimes $100 million ain't enough. So Governor Newsom texted Janice Hahn and I and asked if we wanted to be in the first cohort of a care court. Care court's controversial, it's controversial, but give us the tools and we'll make it work. It might be a concept, but the point is, it is inhumane to allow people who are profoundly mentally ill to die on our streets. That is inhumane. That can't take care of themselves. All of us have seen that. People who are danger to themselves and danger to others, and only thing we have right now, the only tool in the toolbox is a 5150, which means we can keep them for 72 hours and then dump them right back on the streets. We wouldn't sit back and allow somebody to starve to death in front of us. Why would we allow somebody to suffer from an illness and leave them untreated? So while I'm excited by the steps that we have taken to end the suffering on our streets, I'm deeply, deeply troubled by the videos that we witnessed this week. All three of those Angelenos who lost their lives after deadly encounters with police officers. The tragic loss of life is especially difficult when, for me as a former healthcare professional, I witnessed individuals who were in crisis and needed help, and families who I know are now grief-stricken. And all of us know Patrice. And I was reading the article in the LA Times today, and I don't know if you had a chance to read that article, but you should read it, because I just think about the families who now the images will be drilled in their minds forever of watching the last few moments of their families live. And what Patrice is quoted in the paper today is saying is that she has spent so many years comforting other families, and now she's in that situation and trying to figure out exactly how to handle it. I believe that a thorough and transparent investigation must take place, and the results made public regardless of what is found, and a clear understanding that actions have consequences.
That's right. That's right.
And you know, as we navigate through the challenges we face in this city, we just cannot allow anyone to divide us or pit our communities against each other. And after the infamous tapes of several leaders that now have this tagline next to George Gascon, because every time we see him, we go, oh, he's with the blacks. You don't have a t-shirt made that everybody will think about you. But you know, after the tapes came out and we heard those horrific words, some people said, well, this is going to send back relationships between black and brown communities for a generation. I strongly reject that notion.
Amen.
I strongly reject that. How can four knuckleheads erase work that has been done together for generations, for decades?
It ain't gonna happen.
That will only happen if we allow it to happen. And I will never, ever accept that. So the elected officials that are here today, I am so glad to continue working with you and locking arms in unity to get things done for our people. And I have a feeling that our spirit of unity is stronger now than it's been before. The city and the county, we working together. It was fascinating to me that when I came and spoke before the board, everybody acted like that was such a big deal. I was like, well, first of all, I know all these three ladies. But second of all, they right down the street. That's a low bar. But it only means with the bar that low, the only place we have is to go up. So I think that all of us here know the power of bringing people together across neighborhoods, ethnicities, generations, and ages to be a part of progress. We all know the power of the people, and I know that politics and petty divisions get pushed aside when people work together and deliver results. And as long as you keep your eyes on the prize and know what you are working for and why you are working, and it should always be on behalf of the people and never just to advance your personal career.
Great. Great.
So when I look around this room, I am hopeful because I see people who are deeply committed to justice and to building a better future for all Angelenos. And I know that we will navigate our way together. Right now it's through choppy waters, but we are going to work toward a better and brighter brighter future. And I look forward to continuing to lock arms with you and doing the work so that we can have the city that we all deserve. Thank you so much.
Hey, this is your captain speaking. That was the mayor of Los Angeles. I am so glad to be back home.
When I say Karen, you say Bass. Karen.
Bass.
Karen.
Bass.
When I say Karen, you say Bass.
Bass.
Karen. When I say Karen, you say Bass. Karen. 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 Give her some love, Mayor. Karen.
Tavis Smiley. Y'all, I am so glad to be at home. As Dorothy says from The Wizard of Oz, ain't no place like home. And as we begin to change this city and put in a new bottom-up model, we're going to change the course of history. This is your captain speaking.
Come on down.